talking about raising the prince, like we can't forget that the big point of Jarvan 4 or J4's impact in Demacia with his story is his friendship with Shyvana.
Yep.
Like an actual fucking dragon, like this very magical being.
Is that in her Twitter profile where like her bio says actual fucking dragon?
Yeah, actual fucking dragon. It's just that.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, another normal episode 182. I'm your host Ryan, here with another host, Hetch.
Yeah, like we're gonna get back into the groove of things after just absolutely losing our minds over fun comic books.
Yeah, between the blitz for Welcome to Noxus, which we still don't know what it is, right? The comic book tangent. We wanted to fill in some gaps, but before we do so, housekeeping up top. You can listen to us everywhere. Visit us at podcastcore.com for all of our info. Remember, that's podcastcor.com. And then email us at the same name at gmail.com. If you have anything you want to say, follow us on all the platforms, please. We appreciate the discoverability because word of mouth has gotten this far. Leave a like and comment wherever you listen the most. But tell a friend to find a home where their heart is by listening to the Casuals of Runeterra podcast.
Oh, it's such an uplifting message, and hopefully nothing will go wrong for Xin Zhao. Right?
Anyways, today we're talking about Xin Zhao's bio, new or updated bio. It's been updated a couple times. It's not too different from the original bio, just more fleshed out, more cohesive, and fits better into the now world of Runeterra we know. Hence the name Mr. Worldwide for this episode.
Dale. But yeah, no, for Xin Zhao, like this is luckily one of the retcons that doesn't stray too far away from like the original. Which if you've listened to our Lee Sin episode, I think that's an example of one that kind of really distanced itself from the original. But this one just really kind of gives more details to it. It's like if you want to look at the original lore as being an uncolored picture, this is the one that's putting the paintbrush to it and bringing more life to it. But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and this one is written by Michael Luo, or Lowe. We'll go with Michael Lowe. And
yeah, that's how your last name said now, Mike. Sorry. We don't make the rules. We just enforce them.
And his contributions, we've done, the Samira episode, listen to that. Ziri episode, listen to that. Shen's bio, Nidalee's bio. He's touched a lot of these different projects. So always good stuff and great stuff here. But the reason we're touching on Xin Zhao out of nowhere, which it feels like, is because Hetch made a executive decision, which was very smart, is that, we promised, because we weren't very fond of Yunara and Zehen's bio, we want to flesh out the other stuff that came with it, right? Because they were released in a certain package of videos, motion comics, in-game assets, stuff like that. But to do that, we have to actually touch on Xin Zhao earlier. Because we were kind of saving our Demacia stuff for later, after we're done with Welcome to Noxus, but we're going to hop a little bit into it now. And what better way to do that with one of our favorites?
Yeah, and that's a long-winded way of me being able to say, spoilers, we're going back into the Spirit Blossom Festival.
Yeah.
We did touch on it as far as when we did cover Yunara's bio, but we didn't really dive into the festival itself and all of the events that happened there. And this time we're just going to go back and take a look at it. So if you haven't, you can join that ride with us. If you have, you probably have been yelling at yourself in your car ride, listening to us going, it's all explained in video 2. It's Act 2 of the Spirit Blossom Festival. We're getting there.
We'll get there. It's all a journey, right? Let's get into it. All great stories told in 3 parts. We start with part 1, which is Xin Zhao as a young boy. And he's simply a cabin boy on a fishing boat off the coast of Ionia. His life is pretty simple. He simply follows the instructions of elders and does everything they need, and everything went well until the Fire Nation attacked. And essentially, their fishing vessel ventures too far into foreign waters.
Yeah, and again, this isn't too far from like what his original bio was, but as far as the retcon, we get more details as far as the ship that he was on and some of the other sailors who were on that ship with him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, bringing that up to kind of illustrate more that it's like, yeah, we're painting the picture that we were given before. It is very interesting though that Xin Zhao is definitely the Zuko lookalike.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird that he's the one getting attacked by Zuko.
A little twist there, right? So the ship that ends up intervening them while they're in foreign waters too far out from the shore is a Noxus ship, and we'll talk a bit about why, because of the time frame, which we'll get confirmation on. But yeah, it's a Noxus ship, chases them down, and then boards the ship, and immediately claims it for the glory of the Noxus Empire, and deems the ship and everyone in it a part of it now.
And we love to point out the moments that of League of Legends that does a good job of satirizing some colonialism. And boy, howdy, does this get the gold star for doing that.
So they're essentially kidnapped. That includes Xin, and they're taken to this new strange land that's the complete opposite of Ionia and what they know. Because at this point, Noxus really has no feeling of magic to it. There's no feeling of nature. It's, towers, it's sprawling cityscape, and everyone is crammed into every inch of the city. And the other part he learns while being there is it's ruled by this man named Darkwill. And this gives us our time frame.
Yeah, and so now we know for certain that this is like pre-Swain coup. And we also get an idea of what the Noxians are going through at this point, because boy, if you haven't listened to some of our other episodes like Swain, Darius, or Draven, they're the ones to go listen to figure out just how much of a madman Borum Darkwill was. And Xin Zhao is being splashed into an entirely new environment and world that is foreign to him at the height of Borum Darkwill's madness.
Yes. The what is it? The consequences of the dying mind of a mad king is a very common concept in fantasy, and Xin, unfortunately, is in the midst of that, and his life moves fast because of that. From this point forward.
And Alexa, play Caligula by them Crooked Vultures.
So, in addition to them being kidnapped, Xin gets separated from the rest of the fishing crew with no way to get home. So ultimately, he just ends up serving the guy who took him prisoner. And during this time frame, he's recognized for his skill with the spear and is offered a chance at upward social mobility. Where have we heard that before? Listen to our Samira episode. So he accepts it and soon finds himself fighting in the Reckoning arenas. And that's where part 1 ends.
Yeah, and the Reckoning Arenas, for anyone who's coming off of our Alistar episode, you'll remember very well that this is straight up gladiatorial combat. Like, he is now just an enslaved, an indoctrined worker for his kidnappers, risking his life for the chance of a better one now. And that's a very sad part 1.
Yeah. I mean, this is something we've talked about, politically as well, right? When you look at the modern military and what the enticements are to get people to join, right? And this, like I said, we've talked about this with other characters as well, and this is no different. So I'm happy that that's very clear in the text as well, because what this does to his journey makes him a very interesting character, and we'll talk about him being a vehicle for a future narrative, possibly in the Arcane series. But part 2 starts with a sporting event. That is the now Reckoning Arenas, which is very weird for him because the concept of people fighting for the enjoyment of others is absurd to Xin Zhao, right? Because fighting is mostly a defensive thing in Ionian culture. It's purely meant for self-defense or protecting sacred things. And through this fighting, he's given the name Viscero after the ship that they were taken from. and it becomes his celebrated name. And his skill and showmanship is what earns him fans and even sponsors moving forward.
And just a reminder, as far as with his time frame, this is going to be pre Noxus invasion into Ionia.
Yeah.
So the Ionians at this point, they don't even have an organized military.
Yep.
The only people with martial prowess in Ionia currently are the Kinku Order,
Hmm.
and then some of the clans that practice martial arts for self-discipline,
Hmm.
like Master Yi.
Hmm.
So we don't we the idea of actually just fighting for sport has not even come close to being in the same universe that the Ionians are from. And all of a sudden, Vicero's got to go out here and earn his paycheck by killing a bunch of people.
Yeah, this is even pre the rise of Irelia and Karma, right? And those aggressive forces in Ionia as well. But yeah, these are predictable times that soon come to an end, right? Because as Hetch mentioned, the war begins, it begins to break out. And it starts with some hostile nations beginning to challenge Nox's territories. They're starting to spread themselves too thin. And Darkwill has to then lead on offering fortunes to mercenaries. Where have we seen this before?
Nowhere. This is the first of its kind.
Contracted murderers. Well, we'll see where that takes them. But this leads to, I mean, something that's already a racket, the Reckoners. This leads to them becoming conscripted, essentially everyone who owns any fighters, selling them off expeditiously for wealth. And that includes Xin Zhao, who soon is sold off.
Xin Zhao the Corsair.
Yep.
It was Xin Zhao the Reckoner. Now it's Xin Zhao the Corsair. And like I said, this has totally never happened in history at all. Don't look up the word Corsair.
So Xin is soon shipped west to fight on the coastal fortress of Kalstead. And this is where the arena reputation means nothing anymore. All that work he did, all those sacrifices, I mean, moral sacrifices he had to make just for a better life, goes for naught. And this is where he directly faces the forces of King Jarvan III. So once again, another time frame here and his Demacian army. And Xin learns quick that war is much different from the arena, but he still has enough skill to be successful at it.
Yeah, luckily martial prowess does translate into war very well, but it instead of fighting for an audience, you're actually just fighting for survival
Yeah.
at that level. And you're fighting for survival on orders given from people who are fighting for resources.
Yep.
Like their lives are
Well
not at
said.
risk. They're just worried about the resources. And like this is we love some good satire. We love the things that directly translate very well.
Yeah.
But the Kalstead region, as far as on the map, this is smack dab in the middle between Noxus and Demacia,
Yep.
which makes sense as far as for who they're fighting and who is in this area.
Mhm.
But Kalstead has like some of the most historic battles in the lore history.
Mhm.
So it's very fun to see one of the named characters who doesn't get killed in Kalstead, like see them like be there as a part of some of the most historical changes for all of Runeterra.
Yep.
And they're experiencing it firsthand. Xin Zhao was there the whole time.
Yeah.
So he would have seen things like Scion, which is I can't imagine like seeing Scion. But like he would have seen Scion. He would have seen the rise of Darius as far as before actually going out into the Freljord. He would have seen the first machinations from Singed. So Xin Zhao has seen some shit.
Yeah, he's been through it as a former lowly cabin boy.
Yes. And luckily, like the things of Singed that he would have seen might not even exist anymore if we go down the arcane route. But that'll be more for end of episode discussion.
Yeah, we'll get there. Stick around for the general discussion section. But to wrap up part 2 here, there are many conscripts that immediately desert, right? We see this a lot as well because they don't have the ideals. They're there for the money or they were taken there by force and no longer that force can be, you can't keep them in check because they're dying, right, as well. So they're facing an obvious defeat. People are deserting, but Xin Zhao, because it's built into his nature, just starts continuing to kill and survive. And he kills hundreds, right? And soon he ends up surrounded by the main force of the Demacian army, the Dauntless Vanguard, which we've talked about a lot. And he still chooses not to run. He just stands there expecting an execution that never comes. And that's where part 2 ends.
Yeah, and now we go into one of my favorite movies of all time, The Last Samurai.
Yep.
Time to have Stockholm Syndrome. I'm going to hell.
But yeah, so then this takes us to part 3. And once again, it's kind of short and wraps up pretty quickly, is the Dauntless Vanguard was impressed by how he was performing, because them fighting, like, Hetch mentioned Kalstead being an important front, which is the only reason the Dauntless Vanguard is here. And Jarvan, King Jarvan is here as well. That makes sense. But they're watching him, right? They know he's a conscript. Like, this dude is insane, insanely skilled, not insane, because he never expresses that type of performance, right? But King Jarvan despises unnecessary killing. We talk about King Jarvan in many different episodes about what type of king he is. It's more of like a benevolent king in a corrupt system, because of, if you listen to our Kale episode, they're kind of doomed by destiny, right? It's one of those things. Listen to our Kale episode, you'll understand more about the development of Demacian society, and then how the individuals function within it. So you have these, King Jarvans, Garen, and how they're able to, Lucian, how they're kind of going outside the Demacian ideology. I'm getting ahead of myself, but he doesn't really like unnecessary killing. He wants the territory back, right? Because this is places that were taken away from them by Noxus's expansion. And he gives all of the Noxians, not just Xin Zhao, the option to leave Kalstead in peace. Just surrender, leave, we won't follow you. And this shocks Xin Zhao. And he kind of admires the virtue of the king and what he embodies of the Demacian people. So with nothing in Noxus to return to, right, he kneels before the King Jarvan and pleads to be in his service.
Yeah, and not only like nothing in Noxus to return to, but also just no way to get back home, right? And at this point, like he's gone through so much as far as just because of his skill with a spear.
Yeah.
Like the amount of blood that he's seen, he probably feels like he can't really go back home.
Yeah.
Because this like it's pre-karma. This is pre-Noxian invasion.
Mm-hmm.
The people of Ionia do not understand violence.
Yeah.
So what does he have? He does. This is as close to a home as he had anymore. But at the very least, within all of this bloodshed, he's found another group of people who also prefer to hold on to life and discipline, which is all that he's trying to do right now, is like using his own discipline to hold on to life. So yeah, like it kind of is a natural choice for Xin Zhao, in my opinion, to be like, I'm going to follow you now.
Yeah. I find, because it's finally him having a choice, right? And we'll get into that in the general discussion of why Xin Zhao is such a great vehicle narratively. But, we fast forward to the end here, where decades later, Xin Zhao's proved his loyalty. He's now the seneschal of the royal household. And he becomes a bodyguard for not just his friends, but also the king and the young prince, as essentially his uncle, if you want to call it that, Prince Jarvan IV, which everyone is familiar with as a character in the game. And that wraps up the current bio for Xin Zhao.
And the only thing that I'll add there is the seneschal is kind of more like an ambassador position within Demacia. So he is the voice between the nation of Ionia and the nation of Demacia, which is kind of interesting that he kind of ended up in this position with going this route.
Yes.
Like it is a hell of a way to get there, but that is what the seneschal is.
Yep.
And then that kind of leaves us off like into the beginning of the Spirit Blossom Festival, because it is as the seneschal reconnecting as far as with the spirits of Ionia, which is weird for him to do in Demacia because it's completely surrounded by Petricide.
It's so we're in a general discussion, and essentially Jarvan's path here is great because being someone who's taken from their homeland by forced into essentially slave combat, offered opportunities by the people who enslaved him, ultimately being sold off again into war against a nation he doesn't want to fight, and then being recognized by that nation and soon becoming to serve them, and then be the ambassador to the original homeland. And that step in life, and then all the fighting he's done through this point, makes him a very interesting character to express nuance of all these clashing cultures in a very important, very significant moment in Runeterra history, right? With the fall of Borm Darkwill. Um, so this is someone that I didn't originally think of appearing in a Welcome to Noxus situation, right? Or being touched on anytime soon, but they may have to, right? Because he allows you to, because through this bio, we don't really know what his ideals are besides just his behavior. I mean, obviously he survives, right? He's focused on survival, but at no point does he become a person seeking bloodlust, right? He never feeds into the conditions that he's forced into. And I think that, along with his appearance in other people's bios and what they think of him when they see him, right? Even I think Katarina mentions that there's
Yeah.
this guy who just like, why is he here? It's like finding a rose in a desert. It's like, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here. But also sensing the immense experience and skill and you can call it trauma that has made this person who they are. There has to be something resolute he stands for to be this person in the middle of a Demacia that is changing. Because when Xin Zhao gets there, it's a point where you're starting to have characters that will start to clash with the ideals of Demacia as we know it through its history, right? So he's going to interact with Garen. He's interacting with the prince. I mean, he's raising the prince. He's going to be around the same time as a Fiora and a Quinn. And these are people that constantly challenge the idea of what it means to be Demacia and what it means to challenge those ideals.
Yeah.
And he's gone through so much more than those people have gone through outside of those borders to get to this point. And I think that's really cool, right?
Yeah, and we, like, talking about raising the prince, like, we can't forget that the big point of Jarvan 4 or J4's impact in Demacia with his story is his friendship with Shyvana.
Yep.
Like an actual fucking dragon, like this very magical being.
Is that in like her Twitter profile where like her bio says actual fucking dragon?
Actual fucking dragon. It's just that. Female looking for male. But no, like you know, like Jarvan's whole story is really throwing a giant grenade at the idea of what is Demacia.
Yeah.
And there isn't anyone else in Demacia who can relate to anything outside of Demacia as well as Xin Zhao.
Yep.
Like, Xin Zhao is a great vehicle as far as for connecting all these different cultures.
Yeah.
And we've talked about the idea before, like, hell, before Welcome to Noxus was even announced, we talked about the idea of, like, storytelling wise, what characters would you use to connect these? And we talked about characters like Riven, who's another Ionian character absorbed by Noxus. But like, these characters do a very important thing, which is reminding the other characters around them that the world's bigger than where they're at.
Exactly.
And Xin Zhao is a very interesting character to pick because, unlike a lot of the other characters, to echo what you've been saying, he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
At no point did he have a choice until he met J3.
Yeah.
Like, once he met Jarvan III, that was the first choice he was ever given. And let's not forget that the choice he made first was like, all right, I'm dead.
yeah.
Like, so this was the first choice that he made that was allowing him to hold on to life, not because of the circumstances given to him. And it also kind of holds on to this idea of humanity, right? Like,
Yes.
because it is the human nature to struggle to survive.
Mhm.
So it would be a very natural character to use, in my opinion, of like connecting these dots.
Yeah.
We could always go the unnatural route because I think Neela is still a great option. Let's watch this psychotic demon hunt down literal gods.
Hey, allegedly.
Allegedly. Allegedly.
We're not trying to get sued here. Casuals Runeterra.
But specifically looking like within Noxus, I think Xin Zhao is a lot easier to follow than a character like Riven.
Yeah.
Or God forbid we try to follow Set. Set leads a very complicated life.
Like, I'm happy you brought up Set, because when you look at the opposite side of this spectrum is on the Noxus side, Samira, right? Where that is someone who's indoctrinated by the military and then takes on that ideal, right? This never happens to Xin Zhao. And the other part we like to focus on is age. When these things are happening to these characters, because that's important. Developmental, when you were most influential as a teenager, puberty, blah, blah, blah. With him, he was taken as a cabin boy. This all started as a cabin boy. So he's maturing through these experiences, ultimately resulting in this first decision he's ever had in his life after going through as a young man the experiences of Noxus. So he's bringing that into Demacia with him, which a lot of Demacia almost has, and it sucks because we're not touching on Demacia for a long time in the way we want to. We're gonna go deep there, right?
And every time we bring it up, it's just like, God, we love Demacia.
Yeah, because Demacia is a culture, because it's so isolated from things, because it's literally in the middle of a petricite forest, because of the history of Kale creating it and what that history has been molded and twisted to fit the narratives of those who wanted Demacia to be what it is, idealistically. He coming to Demacia at that time is challenging that, because everyone in Demacia is essentially a Nepo baby, idealistically, because they don't have exposure to the outside world. It is, they are isolationist in nature. So King Jarvan bringing him there ultimately is one of the catalysts to the change that we see in Demacia, even though it's a very quiet change, which is very Ionian. It's not a forceful, he's not a major force, he's not boisterous, he's not loud, right? But it is a quiet change of dragging that rose into the desert and then seeing what happens.
And it's very interesting that it is a quiet change, because nothing in Runeterra is ever quiet, right? Like how many ruinations? Neela. But yeah, like how many ruinations have we talked about? Like ruination level events. And then like characters like Set and Riven, they not quiet at all. And part of that does have to do with the fact that like of how much of the Noxian culture that they embraced. And Xin Zhao's in a weird place where he was absolutely, his life was controlled by Noxus for a very long time. But he never embraced it.
He never became a product of his environment, which is like a unique situation.
Yeah, like you said it yourself, like he never fed into it. Like he just survived it in spite of it. Whereas we have characters like Set, who absolutely embraces it. It's like, well, shit, if I'm going to be controlled by it, I might as well get paid.
I mean, he brings it to his homeland, which I would love to see a depiction of Set interacting with Xin, because Set has an ideal of what the arenas are, and he's creating that in Ionia with the intentions of supporting his mother initially. Go listen to our Set episode. But his intentions are good, but those get corrupted just like it would in Noxus, where Xin was there. And he's like, hey, you're a poser. And I want to see what that interaction looks like.
Yeah, and not to mention that like Xin Zhao also, like, he is connected with the spiritual side to a certain extent, because in his bios it does specify that like he does not feel a spiritual connection in Noxus. And he can't feel this connection to the spirits in Demacia, but it's not the Demacians' fault. Like he actually is feeling these things, which is not only a very Ionian thing, but it's also a very disciplined thing. And it's a very interesting to see. It would be interesting to see him interact with a character like Set, where it's like, yeah, you were born here, but you're not connecting with it. So I
especially
wonder, like, if
being part Vestayan, right? There's a
yeah,
lot.
like
There's a lot here you can play with narratively. Like, to your point, I want him to meet a couple characters. I'll let you finish. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, because I would love to see him meet Set because
Mhm.
I think he would just hate Set.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that he would like the dude at all. Um, and I do want him to meet a character, another Noxian character that would has more of an upbringing like his. But like talking about the show, it would be cool if he met Mel.
Yes.
Especially like at this point of Mel's character arc,
Mhm.
where she's like embracing the idea of being Noxian, but not embracing the Noxian doctrine.
Yeah. The
It's like,
military, the
I'm bigger.
military-based doctrine. Yeah.
It's like I am bigger than that military based doctrine, but I am Noxian in spite of it. And so her character arc is much more in line to like Katarina in the comics.
Yeah.
And like a character like that meeting Xin Zhao,
Yeah.
who has experienced it all and is still just him, like that could absolutely be a very pivotal point in a lot of character arcs for characters like that. Um, and otherwise, like the only other character I'd want him to meet would be like Varus. What are you going to do when you meet a literal demon
Yeah.
and then watch this demon have a schizophrenic attack?
Yeah. Varus is also a good challenging of what. Yeah, it would challenge his reality in a big way. Um, for me, my list. I mean, I mentioned Samira a couple times. Um, because she is young, boisterous. She is everything he's not. So I would like a clash there to not like a fight, but just of ideals. And then
It would be a
Shen.
fight.
I want him to meet Shen. I think because Shen is we always come back to Shen because he's so on the spectrum in a Runeterra way. That's very interesting because he only connects to the spirit world, right? He
Yeah.
does not connect to reality in any
And he
way.
does not care what's happening
Yeah,
in
he
reality
does not
unless
care
it's
what's
affecting
happening.
the spirit world.
Yeah. So it would be cool to see what that interaction looks like as a shock of, okay, the ambassador essentially comes back to Ionia, is able to connect for the first time in decades with the spirit realm, and he clashes or he interacts with Shen by accident. Right? It's like drinking from a hose or drinking from a fire hydrant. Sorry. And I want to see what that does to him as well. Like, this is a character I want. So first of all, obviously, if you haven't heard us, Riot, do not kill this character off in any way in the story, please.
I swear to Bob.
I swear. We need to get to old man Xin Zhao. This is a very
Xin Zhao
important
must be
character.
protected at all costs.
Exactly. Like whatever plot device you have to use, whatever plot armor you have to give him, he needs to live to an old age because he is a very good touch point for so many characters.
Yeah.
And can help move the story around in interesting ways because of his influence being at the right hand of the king and his son.
Yeah, and speaking of that being that touch point of connecting with other characters and his spirituality, we mentioned the Spirit Blossom Festival.
Yeah.
There was a reason we're talking about Xin Zhao. He is involved in the Spirit Blossom Festival, and there, no spoilers here, but there's going to be opportunities for him to connect more with the spiritual side of things. Who knows if he gets to meet Shin? I don't know that. But if we're going into the Spirit Blossom Festival that introduced Yanara, she's a member of the Kinku Order.
Yep.
The Kinku Order might be in touch with their spirits inside, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's not like their order was created to make sure it stays in balance.
Yeah.
So who knows? Like we might actually be talking about a meeting of Xin Zhao with more of these spiritual leaders from Ionia.
Yep. We'll leave it there. We've had fun. We've been looking forward to this outlet for some Demacia stuff. Hetch is going to continue guiding us on this journey that he's painted as we get to finally satisfy the filling out of the Unara and the Zehen story. We'll get there. But we also get to touch on a lot of the motion comics we didn't get to touch on that came out in this time frame. A lot of the videos that are connected through the marketing push for the Welcome to Noxus and the standard League of Legends stuff that's been going on. And we're excited to talk more. We won't. So we'll just let it leave here. We're still not going to get deep into the Garen stuff and the Luck stuff. We're still saving that for down the road, and preparing. But
No,
we are
right
going
now
to give a little taste.
we do. We're having fun as far as connecting those dots, but we don't want to lose sight of the vision, which is that we're excited for the next installment of the show, right? And the next installment of the show is going to be in Noxus. So, Garen, Lux, you will have your time to shine. But right now, the Crown Guard is going to just sit off to the side. We're more interested in your uncle.
The show will go on until the military or government steps in. So if we tell you, hey, we'll cover this in a year or two, we'll be here.
Dude, you can't make that kind of joke in this current climate.
Yeah, two immigrants saying a bit too much.
Just got raised.
Hope this doesn't flag any of our agents that are watching us. Anyways, as always, thanks for listening. And we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Take care, everybody.